Thank you, everybody. Staff, please call roll so we can establish a quorum.
At this time, I'm only asking those CAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphone by pushing on the button on the base prior to responding. Ryan Rossi. Lily Charlotte Landstrom.
Present.
Aquanette Tyson Thomas is excused. Kate Layden.
Here.
James Garvin.
Here.
Paula Ryan.
Here.
Jim Knight. Sammy Brown. BJ Mishra. Francisco Gill. Myron Uman.
Here.
Brian Rosen. Greg Fagan.
Here.
James McCormick.
Here.
Albert Richwagon.
Here.
Win Dang is excused. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, item 3B needs to be deferred to the June CAC meeting. That's all.
Move approval.
Seconded. Approval by Myron, motion by Myron, second by BJ. Any discussions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, keep forgetting my mic. Instructions on how to provide public comment are included in the agenda. Staff, have any general comments been received?
No, Mr. Chair.
As a reminder, action items on the agenda that are for items on the agenda that might be a conflict of interest for members, there are available forms if needed. At this time, I would invite CAC members to comment on any items not already on the agenda.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
And I said, is there any comments from the CAC for items not on the agenda?
Yeah, I do.
No?
Yes, please.
Paul?
Sorry. Just as it relates to Wen's absence, and her presentation being pushed off to June. I'm going to be out of the county that meeting. Can we still watch this meeting from Zoom, but even though we can't participate?
Yes, you can, so you can participate, well, you can't participate in the meeting, but yes, it'll be live on Zoom. All of our committee meetings and board are live, and they're also recorded on the website.
Great. So with that, Chair, if you'll give me a moment, and anticipation of Wen's presentation next month, I wanted to just share with you that the Palm Beach County Planning Congress, in partnership with the Transportation Planning Agency and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, held a symposium last Friday, actually here in our offices. And the subject was transportation and the missing middle housing, which talks about, affordability and all of the aspects that go into affordable housing, and transportation being one of them. So what I wanted to share with the committee, and also Brian is agreed to get access to more, so everybody has one. But the AARP, for my friends in the corner over there, you might think that you're way far off of, participating with their services. They've actually spent a great deal of time, money, energy, and professional resources in addressing ease of access, affordability of transportation. As their population ages, it's important to them to ensure that there is a walkable, safe community that they can age in place and have access to everything that you can get access to, that you need to get access to without necessarily having a car. So they have something that's called the Bike Audit Toolkit, as well as the Walk Audit Toolkit. And it talks about some zoning issues related to housing and how that housing can be married, locally to, transportation mobility situations. But I think that we talk about it a lot here. It's something that we bring up. Wynn's presentation next month is really going to be along the lines of how we change our mobility habits, and how the population changes its mobility houses and how the built-out environment can help address that in a safe way that everybody has the option to get to where they're going without having to get out of a car if they don't want to, without having to get in a car if they don't want to. And I think that the more we learn and understand, the more we can bring back to our public officials that appointed us. And I know that a lot of the municipalities in Palm Beach County are looking at things that they can do in their built-out infrastructure to accommodate a connectivity throughout the county. So I just wanted to share that with you. It was a great symposium. We had a lot of really wonderful speakers, and it was just a testament to the partnerships that go on in this county between this agency, the Planning Council, as well as other private and cities. Entities. So I just wanted to share that. If you're interested, I think they're putting the symposium up on our website. There were a lot of great speakers. I'm sorry you guys, missed it if you weren't in attendance, and those who were, I want to thank you for being there because it was really quite wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So I know we're all kind of interested to hear Wynn's presentation next month, so it should be very interesting. Any other comments from the committee? Vijay?
Please use your microphone.
In the last meeting, I had asked about the discussion and progress on the couple of roads in the Loxahatchee. Did we get any clarity on what was the reason of those roads not being approved for widening? Andrew, did you get a chance to look into it?
No. I apologize, Vijay. No, I have not. Can you remind me which?
Though I think it was 140th Street, I think. And there was one more. I'll share with you.
Okay,
This was something that engineering had recommended, but I think commission decided not to move with those.
sure. I mean, and this would be something that obviously we would be following up with county engineering on,
Yes,
since they're not our roads, but we can try to get you those answers. if you-
definitely. The reason and concern, obviously, you know, some of us who are in the Western County, every time we have a chance for some additional access or widening, there is always some hesitation. So just want to see if there is a reason for that.
All right. Any other comments? All right, moving on. Time for the CAC liaisons report. I'd like to invite Andrew to provide an update.
Thank you, Chair. We're going to have it on the screen here. And it's also printed for you and it'll be available on the website afterwards. I'm just going to go through a few. And the first ones are all related to National Bike Month and bicycling. The first one's National Bike Month, and it's in May, and it's Bike to Work Week, May 13th to 17th. And then there's National Bike to Work Day on May 17th. And so you can find more resources at bikeleague.org. There's also a National Bike to School Day that many of our schools participate in. It's going to be held on May 8th, and there's more information at walkbiketoschool.org. Next is bicycle friendly designations. So that's something that is available for communities as well as businesses and universities. And there's different deadlines on those dates, but to become a bicycle friendly business, the TPA is also a bicycle friendly business. But you can find out more information at bikeleague.org/BFA. And then the Let's Get on the Bus Challenge is going through May. And this is a challenge by Palm Tran to encourage ridership to win prizes. There's more information at their Palm Tran website /rider-challenge. There's a lot of transit champions they have, so you can sign up for a team and compete with other teams. And some of the transit champions on that, Mac Bernard, Mayor Chesley Reed, Mayor Wilson of Belglade, Greg Weiss, and then Valerie Nielsen, our executive director, is also on that. So that's a neat one to get involved in. And then all the rest, Vision 2050, LRTP, You can still provide feedback on this. We're gonna have some upcoming presentations to you all in the coming months as we get closer to adoption of this. There'll be some more workshops like we've had in the past, and there's gonna also be some community events. But there's been some updates on the website, and we have our call for projects list, and all the projects are on that website. There's an interactive map that you can go and look at those and comment. So we encourage you to do that at our website. Same time, we still have our regional plan going on. There's a survey on that. There's also a survey from West Palm Beach about transit ridership for residents and those who work in West Palm Beach. And the remainder of the items you can look at your own, but it's Safe Streets and Roads for All Roundtable, and then grants, and then sign up for our newsletter. And then there's bags at a few of your seats. So if you have a bag, those are just items from the TPA as new members that you haven't received yet. So that's what those are for you all. I think there's a water bottle in there, maybe some other materials.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any public comments on these items?
No, Mr. Chair, and for the record, Sammy Brown joined the meeting at 1:36 PM.
Do any committee members have comments or questions about the liaison's report? Paula?
Thank you, Andrew. Just one question as it relates to the bus challenge. What would be helpful is if there were some routes that are kind of their main routes. Like I know that they have they have a number of scheduled bus trips out west as well as north-south. And it would be really helpful if we could see what their major bus routes are, so that if we want to take part of the challenge, we could kind of look on the map where they are. So it makes it a little bit more convenient and add it into our schedule. So if you could send that, I mean, I've gone on their website. I'm not a bus user. I don't necessarily follow the schedules, but if there was something in that nature, it would be very helpful.
Yeah, we can provide that feedback, and I'm sure we're promoting it for, at least for example, Valerie. And we can put that promotion when you're going to be doing those events, what route they're taking. I'm not sure if that's provided or not. Looks like Brian's going to say something.
Yeah. Yeah, so the way that the Palm Trend has structured this challenge is they're trying to entice local community leaders to draw their immediate circle to specific days, specific avenues, and specific venues. So the way that this challenge was structured was that, for example, Valerie has wants to highlight the connection from the mall at Wellington Green. And so for her day on May 17th, we've been promoting it to the village of Wellington. We've been promoting it to local stakeholders downtown because it's a great way to get into downtown West Palm Beach without. So there's a few different options there. Really, it's meant to be something where the transit champions invite, selected people, or you see that, there's someone that you've known about. So I'll work with Palm Trend on selecting some routes which don't have that kind of like specific person highlight, and I've done this work before where like they give you an itinerary of things to do along a route. So for example, US 1, we went to Aioli the other day for Earth Day as a staff for lunch. We all ordered ahead, got on the route 1, took it down, pick up, ate, and then came back to highlight and show a few of our staff how to do it. So the types like things like that would be good suggestions.
So, I mean, what comes to mind for me is I don't drive unless I have to go, west of Australian or 95 or too far north or south. But I do have to get to the gardens for a number of different things. And there are shopping options there that aren't here. So I see, because I live off of Route 1, I see that North Federal bus line that says, I'm not sure where it starts, where the bus stops. I know where the bus stops are near me, but I'm not exactly sure where they are on the other end. And if that is an option for me sometime during this challenge, I'd love to experience. So is perhaps Commissioner Marino participating in doing the challenge, and maybe I can
We
check
can see.
in with what
Yeah.
she's got going on.
I know Commissioner Weiss recently participated, Commissioner Bernard. I believe Marcy Woodward is going to work on Commissioner Woodward is getting a ride in South County for her section, so I'll look into that and see if I can get some information about it.
Great, thanks. And you look like you're gonna get some more information. Thank you.
Valerie Nielsen, hello, everyone. Thank you for the interest in the challenge. And we're happy to, I would recommend personally, also Google Maps Transit or even Transit app is super friendly, user friendly. You can drop a pin and say, I want to like to plan a trip. I want to arrive by a certain time or leave at a certain time, and kind of like driving directions. You put the pin to where you want to go anywhere in this, really in the South Florida region or around the world, and it'll tell you your options and exactly when to leave, where to walk, the bus stop and all that. So Route 1 does, we've had a few staff members ride from the Gardens Mall to work here a few times. So that's a great way to kind of, if you're exploring going somewhere, seeing your options and it telling you exactly how to get there. But yes, on the website, on Palm Trans, this challenge website, Get on the Bus, you can see different champions and their teams that are participating, but you can also participate as a regular rider and win prizes and join rides. So these events that they're doing, Mayor Reed did an event in Gardens. We have several board members doing different events. It's more of a promotion and inviting people to come. So they asked me to participate, and I'm actually highlighting the Okeechobee Park, but we're riding from Wellington, meeting there, riding to Okeechobee, and there's some activities there, and then going back to the Wellington Mall, but it's to help promote. So really anyone's welcome to join that event on my event on May 17th on Friday from 2 to 4. We're meeting at the Wellington Mall for that activity, but it's really a challenge open to anyone to get on the bus. So, and Brian's also happy to help show the app for Palm Tran and to get the free $5 for, that's a day pass as well. Thanks.
What was a transit app?
It's called Transit app. So it's one of the top apps worldwide. And if you go to the App Store on your phone, and it's very, very user friendly. I use it when I travel internationally. I use it here, and it's kind of like driving directions. You can say arrive by or leave by this time, and you drop pins or add addresses, and it'll give you all your options, including an estimate of how much it would cost to take an Uber or Lyft as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you all. Any other comments from the committee? Andrew, I do have a question. How much longer will you be taking comments for the LRTP 2050?
You could still do the preliminary survey that we have on the website about sort of what you value and like prioritize in transit overall, transportation and our needs. But we're shifting now more towards project review.
Mhm.
And so the website interactive map is now shifted towards that. So on the website, you have the opportunity to comment on the products that have been submitted by all of our jurisdictions and then by the state. But you can also drop your own comments too, if you have another need that you wanted to identify. So it's all in the same mapping application.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Action items. I recommend adoption of the fiscal year 25-26 Unified Planning Work Program. I'd like to invite Andrew Euler, Deputy Director of Programs, to present on this item.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this is the second reading of the Unified Planning Work Program. And so I want to provide a quick overview of what this is and what's changed. And then if you'd like a more detailed presentation, if people have missed the meeting, you can make that decision or not, or you can just head to an action. So this is the fiscal year 25 and 26 Unified Planning Work Program. And so this is the 2-year budget of planning activities for the next 2 fiscal years. And that starts on July 1st of this year. So what that means is it details what staff will be doing, what we do with consultants for planning activities, and then any other direct expenses when it comes to travel, trainings, facilities that we have here and maintaining just the organization as a whole. And so our changes from last time, and this is just one bulleted slide of changes. The first one is this UPWP went through a review by the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, and FDOT. They provided their feedback and we incorporated all those comments. Those comments and how we've actually incorporated them are provided as an appendices in this document. So that was provided in the backup. And then we had some updates to all the funding sources that are in this plan. The first one being the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, the CTD program. So it went from $54,000 to $56,000. That one is one where we had the final updated number for this coming fiscal year. So we're able to incorporate that change. And then other ones include our main federal planning funds, which are formula funds that we get to our area to do planning activities for transportation in the urbanized area. We have money that's in our current budget that we're not going to draw down. So we're projecting, instead of 166,000 that we had in the original draft, it'll be in up to 250,000. That's spread throughout. And then the next one is another federal funding source that we have that's mainly used for projects like construction, but can also be used for planning activities. We have a little bit of our budget from that goes into the Unified Planning Work Program. That number is actually going to be reduced a little bit. You know, we have more planning funds from the other sources. And so that one we brought down a little bit. So it's not showing that full amount. So that money would be swept back to be used for projects, the construction of projects. And then last item is relatively clerical, but it is rounding budget line items. So to make the plan easier to read, and they are estimates for the next 2 years. So the budgets are rounded to the tenths or hundredths place for eligibility. And I can go in more detail on the full UPWP if you'd like, or if you want to go to a vote, really up to your discussion.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Let's just go to the committee. Is there any questions, or is there a desire to have more in-depth information about the presentation? All right. I think I see no request for more information. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Does the committee have any questions or other thoughts to share on this item? All right. Hearing no further discussion, can we have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second that.
Second by VJ. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Andrew. Greatly appreciate it. All right, now information items. Once again, Andrew is going to grace us with his presence and give us a draft of fiscal year 25 to 2019 Transportation Improvement Program tips. So Andrew.
Okay, thank you again. So that last presentation was a lot about numbers. This has even more numbers in it. So this is the 5-year Transportation Improvement Program. And so that last item we just saw, the UPWP, is the planning activities. This is where we actually have the design and construction of projects. So it's the federal and state funds towards projects within Palm Beach County. And so in here, that list of projects, you're going to see it by phase and by funding source. And it covers 25 through 29. And we're currently operating in the fiscal year 2024. Sorry, one second. There's like a whisper going on. I don't know if you can find it, but it's very minor. So I'm gonna keep talking, but it's somewhere around here. I'm almost like I have to have I'm a singer. I have to like put some earbuds in. Maybe it's my stuff. So it covers the next 5 years. We're currently operating in fiscal year 2024. This is 25 to 29. And then you'll also see outer years. So items that are outside of the tip for programming, they'll be in the long range outside of 29. So every product that's in the work program is going to have a detail of phases. The major products that you see in here, they're going to have a lot of phases incorporated in there. So it could start, this is something like a 95 product, could start with a study, like a master plan, and then it could go into design for 2 years, then right of way and utilities and environmental for another 2 years or more, and then it gets to construction. So this could actually go over the entirety of the tip or even a longer time frame. As opposed to products that are a little smaller in nature that doesn't require right-of-way acquisition or a lot of environmental review work, it might just have a design phase and then go right to construction. So these are more towards smaller scale transportation alternatives program products like bike ped products. It's also a lot of the resurfacing and bridge work could have a smaller time frame. So every product that's in the actual work program is going to sort of have this pipeline of activity, this production schedule. What is provided in the executive summary is the TPA priority projects, and that's going to be separated into 4 different categories. There's going to be major projects with state roads, local initiatives, which is a product that a program we have for our locals to submit and apply and then administer projects. And then we have transportation alternatives, which is very similar. It goes towards a lot of non-motorized improvements. We have summary tables that provide year in priority, lead applicant, location description, the product number, and then you'll see the fiscal years programmed upcoming for 25 through 29. If there's any funding that's still needed, you'll see that in an outer column. And it's anticipated for that to be programmed in future years. And so how do we get to this part of the process for a tip? It really starts over a year ago. So we have our long-range transportation plan. We have a lot of product applications that are submitted to us for our local initiatives and transportation alternatives. Those are all reviewed, ranked, and provided in a draft list for you all to see and the board to approve. That's the list of priority projects. That's in July of 2023. We give that list to FDOT, and FDOT works towards their next version of the work program. And in that, they include our priorities, their priorities, and other submittals from other types of projects. And they balance the budget of those and create this draft tentative work program. That's seen by the TPA. We provide our feedback, and then that is what formulates the final work program, which we build a tip off of. So well over a year process to get to this point. And what I mean by that is you're about to adopt this plan next month. We'll be already working on the product development now, and we're working on the list of priority products for next year. They'll come to you all in July. So really starts back up right when we adopt one document, we go towards the other one. What's provided in this tip for 25 to 29? $3.63 billion in federal and state funding in Palm Beach County. Very similar to the prior years. We have a lot of large scale capacity building projects on our trunk line of I-95 and the Turnpike. So majority of those funds, a good amount, are Turnpike funds, and I'll show you where those are in a second. Outside of that, we do have a lot of programming of funds for our TPA priority projects, major projects, local initiatives, transportation alternatives. And then as you work down the different categories that are in the transportation improvement program, we'll get into other FDOT and local projects. So projects that are going to have more local funds on them and are administered locally. And then operations and maintenance. And then our final airports, seaports, and rails. When it comes to specifically the TPA priorities for the next 5 years, there's $367 million programmed towards this. This includes our major roadway capacity projects that are Atlantic Avenue widenings and State Road 7 extension widenings. It's electric buses and transit shelters and rail vehicles, also pedestrian bicycle improvements, lighting, and then intersection and traffic signals. And so going into a little bit more details when it comes to our priorities at the TPA and what they're looking like and the status of those. First one I wanted to mention, State Road 7, 60th Street to North Lake Boulevard, fiscal year 29, and then Okeechobee Boulevard to 60th in fiscal year 28. So those are both programmed in the upcoming tip. Those still have pending litigation, which is ongoing. So those court hearings, from what we've recently heard, the environmental resource permit is scheduled for May 20th to 30th. And then there'll be a future date after that one's figured out for the water use permit. And so it may also take time for the judge to render their decision. So we're still looking, hopefully later this year to get a decision. But again, those products are programmed in 29 and 28. Next is State Road 80 lighting, another major priority of the TPA for some time now. This is about a $24 million total product cost. Florida Power and Light have actually started construction on this project. They're going to be doing it in phases, but this has gone to construction with the completion and going into spring of 2025. There's also guardrails that are a separate product. They're going to be part of this lighting product for locations where the light poles might be closer to the roadway. And what these will look like are basically kind of the standard lighting. You'll see it attached to utility poles, or they might be standalone poles. You won't see all this money in the tip because this work has already started. It's actually in the current fiscal year. So some of this is already being worked on. And so that full 24 million isn't in this full tip, but there are parts that are still there. Next is the Atlantic Avenue widening. Similar to the State Road 80 lighting, this Atlantic Avenue widening has construction starting up here pretty soon for the western portions of State Road 7 to Turnpike. So both of those sections are being widened at the same time. And then the portion that's in the Transportation Improvement Program is fiscal year 29 for Turnpike to Jog. So fully funded for construction for that entire priority project of both sections. And then in that major product list, one of the major initiatives of the TPA is what is called the 561 multimodal corridors. That's what it's called collectively. We've had a few major corridor studies already take place. The first one being US 1, which ran the entire length of US 1 in Palm Beach County. From that study, there's a series of projects that we're slowly starting to implement. The first of those, or one of the first ones of those, is transit signal priority. So priority signals for Palm Trand. That procurement's underway with Palm Trand. There's enhanced transit shelters occurring in fiscal year 26, so 2 years out. And then multiple cities throughout the county have various road reconstructions of US 1 taking place for complete streets, for safety, ped bike improvements. And two of those that are actually for construction are in 25 and 27 coming up here. After US 1, there's the Okeechobee Boulevard study, including State Road 7. Completed that study pretty recently as well in the past 2 years. That also has transit signal priority that's underway in the short term. And then moving along to the further long term of this project and the grand vision of this. So we have enhanced transit shelters that are programmed in fiscal year 29, so the outer year, 5th year of the tip. And then FDOT is doing a feasibility study in this upcoming year, so starting soon in fiscal year 2025. And that's going to look at some of the alternatives that the TPA has identified in that Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 multimodal corridor study. So that includes enhanced transit, light rail, bus rapid transit, those sort of items that they're looking at feasibility for. The rest of the studies for the entirety of the network is ongoing, and we're making moves on those as well. So that covers major projects. And then we have these two other sort of competitive application processes that we have for local. That includes local initiatives, upcoming projects in fiscal year 2025. There's 6 of those starting construction. And then there's a series of products that you'll see in the table that hadn't been programmed yet. There's another 7 of those, 8 of those, and we're looking to get those funded in the next round of the TIP. Same for transportation alternatives. There's 4 upcoming for construction in 2025. And then we have new projects that are programmed for construction in 27, so 3 years out, and there's 6 of those. So lots of pedestrian, bicycle, and safety improvements going on in both local initiatives and transportation alternatives. And the last thing I want to mention when it comes to these TPA priorities is something new to this document is we separated out any of the products that are active, going through procurement, or are currently under construction. And there's a list of those, 7 major products, 12 local initiatives, and 9 transportation alternatives. These are products that, you know, since they're still ongoing, we want to make sure that we're keeping track of those. But you won't see them in the main table for the list anymore. You'll see them as another table that's right after the main list. So these are going to be provided in a separate table. But that way you realize that they're not in the Transportation Improvement Program coming up, but they're still on our radar so you guys can track those. Here's an example of a best picture I can find about one for under construction, but here's a priority to the TPA, Lake Worth Road roundabout and pedestrian enhancements, then doing some sidewalk work and drainage work, And this was taken in February of 2024. Okay, so that covers the TPA priority projects. And then there's the FDOT initiatives. The major part of that is the strategic intermodal system. So this is our main thoroughfare of throughout the county and the state. $1.5 billion of funds programmed. A lot of that going towards the turnpike capacity projects, and then a lot of work on the I-95 interchanges. This table goes from north to south, and it's all the I-95 products and the work coming up over the next 5 years. The first fiscal year column is before 2025. So that's stuff that's already occurred or is occurring right now. And then you'll see the 5 common years of the tip of 25 to 29, and then anything happening outside of 2029. So lots of work occurring. If it is going to be a major interchange reconstruction, it's noted here by the type of interchange that it's going to be. So DDI means diverging diamond, and we've spoke about this in the past. There's another 4 identified there for divergent diamond interchange. And then one other thing to note here in this table, and it'll be available later on the website, any of the strike throughs with the light gray showcases where it moved from the prior tips, right? So sometimes FDOT is moving around some of these priorities based on production schedules with other projects and funding availability. So a lot of these are more on the priority of the FDOT and when they take place. And then similar to I-95, a lot of widening on Turnpike. So major capacity widens to widen to 8 lanes throughout all of Palm Beach County, and then the 10 lanes in the southern portions of our county. Lots of those projects are programmed in the upcoming years, and they're sort of stagnated throughout the plan, you can see. So there'll be construction starting on all these portions in the next 5 years. So that's where that billions of dollars that you saw in the SIS capacity is coming from is here on the Turnpike. So that's a summary of really just the major SIS projects, the TPA priorities. There's plenty of other products that are going to be in the plan. An easy way of sort of seeing all this is on our website. If you go to our website, palmbeachtpa.org/tip, or if you go to our mapping tool, which is a link on there, it's /map. The first layer on there is actually the draft tip. So you can see all the projects in their entirety and where they're mapped if you want to zoom into your area and take a look at those. And so what we're looking to do between this draft and the next draft, any ways that we can improve clarity of projects to make it more understandable, we'd love to do that. If there's any corrections to that. We also ask our local jurisdictions during our technical advisory committee meeting if they can give us their projects. We like to also map all their local projects so that we have a comprehensive map of everything going on in the next 5 years. And so this final draft will include all those projects that we do get submitted. One of the ones that we do already is the 5-year road program the county has. We know that's a large list, and that seems to be one that a lot of people really want to understand. And so we already integrate all that. We'll update product details a little bit more for some of these. So airport, seaport, any of those projects, will be getting more descriptions with those. And then lastly, hopefully by next meeting, we'll have an interactive tool. We have a new tip tool that we're releasing with a new company. And you'll be able to look at all this more interactively on a table on our website based on the status of the project, lead agencies, anything really you would like to sort by. And with that, I can take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? BJ?
So on that Southern Boulevard lighting project, you said FPL has already started construction?
Correct. That's now there might not be, if you're going out there right now to look at that, they might not have like any work trucks out there, but we've been notified that construction has started.
And I'm assuming sidewalk is also part of this project. Is that?
No, this is just going to be
Lighting.
just lighting. Yep. And it's the entirety you see there of that stretch.
And that light rail project that we have, you said right now it's FDOT is reviewing that. They are getting the feedback from somebody. What are they doing on that light rail project? The State Road 7 and.
Oh, yes. So we completed the study for, like, looked at different transit alternatives for that corridor, right? One of the ones that came to the top was the light rail as an alternative. But they'll be exploring other alternatives as well. So we're just getting more into the feasibility of that. So more detail on traffic modeling, if it's going to fit within the right of way. It's not a full on PD&E, but it's just more geared towards a little bit more in-depth study when it comes to some of their things there.
And as part of that study, is funding being looked at, like how the project is going to get funded if the project really goes through? Is that part of the?
No, it probably wouldn't be a part of that. But that's something that TPA will be considering. And really, it depends on how this gets rolled out. When they look at those alternatives and we can see what's feasible, we do have some phased approaches to some of these projects. For example, we have the transit signal priority. We have some shelters going in that could serve local service long-term. So we'll find out from that study a little bit more about that, about maybe phased approaches, but they typically don't put funding in there, but that's something that TPA will be doing.
Okay, thank you.
Or is already doing.
Paula?
Thank you. Could you go back to the section that talked about the two major projects, Dixie Highway and Okeechobee Boulevard?
Sure.
And you had, I think, like 4 bullet points.
There it is, yeah.
Okay, so I'm also got the tip online, and I think I'm just in the executive summary, but I haven't found a way to dig deeper. So let me just see if you can answer my question. On the US 1, that's transit signal priority, which is underway, enhanced transit shelters, that FY 26, is that an end date, a beginning date, a design date? What does that actually include? And
That's
then the
more of a-
next one as well.
Sure. That's more of a beginning date on that one. Yep, enhanced transit shelters. Some of these items that are administered by Palm Tran might, I guess for the transit ones, it gets flexed to Palm Tran, and then they'll start drawing down those funds long term. So design and construction sort of occurs near the same time, right? It's more like a design build. Whereas the road constructions, that's most likely going to occur in that year. But I would expect the transit shelters, if it did occur in 26, it'd probably be in the later part of 26.
And so in this particular section, and I'm sure it's the same all over the county when these things are done, the municipality may or may not have their own design guidelines related to bus shelters. I know the Gardens has, undertaken that huge task years ago. I don't know if like West Palm Beach does. I mean, I've seen some enhanced bus shelters on Route 1, but I think it's associated with the projects that are coming along and being redeveloped. And I've seen the work associated with the lighting. I mean, what they, really know they're there. They come over and work on the sidewalk and put some barriers that allow you to show that they're putting all the underground mechanicals that are needed in order to do the lighting on the road. And the road reconstruction, the question really comes down to what has been approved specifically. What else needs community engagement? And can we, as a community that abuts these roads and are impacted by anything that's done on these roads, that we can kind of get a scope of work or at least a list of priorities for feedback to and timing as it relates to the work they're going to do. So I'm trying to follow along in the website, and what would be helpful is if I could, because it has in sections, here's the lighting. Okay, here's what we're doing on the lighting. This is the amount of money. This is kind of the breakdown. But I know that right behind the lighting comes the bus shelters and construction. And so those are in different sections within this document.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, I mean, a lot of the US ones are clumped together, but there might be some at the bottom of the list about when they got added to the list of priority projects. You are correct. There's sort of, it really depends on production schedule and which one to move forward. And just some background history for everyone else too. For example, this US one multimodal corridor study, lots of ideas came out of that study. It was very comprehensive. A few of those cities were ready to move forward with reconstructions. Some of those are land repurposing, so there's a larger review process of that. Some of those are still ongoing of those reviews, but the ones that have been able to move forward are moving forward with support from those local municipalities and then also the necessary support from DOT. And so the ones coming up, for example, in 25, we have Community Real to Northeast 8th Street, Meisner Boulevard and Boca Raton. So it's a 6-lane to 4-lane conversion. And then the one in 27, we have coming up. Give me a second. I found it. You know, I thought I was ready for this. There's one more. Brian, do you know off the top of your head? I apologize. There's another one going on here. It's North Lake. Okay. But going back to your point, Paula, there's other sections that are sort of still in that preliminary study stage that we need to get on top of. And I think that's where you're sort of heading with this, right? So there's other ones that, for example, FDOT might be going out pretty soon with a resurfacing job. There's a few of them. They're doing a lot of US 1 resurfacing jobs. We have some ideas in this multimodal corridor study, or even some additional ideas that came about outside of that that need to get incorporated, and those take reconstructions. So there's not an extensive, I guess, in this document, it's not an extensive list of all those. It's only really showing the ones that have some type of production coming up. But your point is taken.
Do they have schedules? So if I could find, for example, road construction, do they have that 25, 27, the expectation of what they want to
Yes,
see
yeah,
occur?
there'll be a general description of that, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, and in those, for example, the one in 25 already has the design completed. We still have a general description in the tip, but it's a pretty fairly detailed description.
So I'm looking at the executive summary, which I got to from the table of contents and then going down to the appendix. Can you direct me to the appendix that I might be able to find more detail on this particular subject? And I apologize if I'm
Sure. Yep.
taking other people's time.
The best way to review that is really when you're looking at the executive summary and you have the full document open, if you find the product number, you can then search for the
Okay.
control find, control F. If you find that FM number in the full document, you'll see that full detail page. And then with the caveat to that is, hopefully by next meeting, we have the tip tool created for you all, so you can just, it'll
Flip
be
through.
much quicker to zoom through that.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I'll dig down. Thanks.
Real quickly to follow up on that, Paul, the bus shelters in Palm Beach Gardens are actually funded by the Art and Public Places Ordinance. A lot of the non-residential buildings in the city are required to contribute a certain amount of money to it, and that's where those come from a lot. So they're not necessarily an enhanced bus shelter in this circles, but they are nice.
Yeah, I know. I remember that we wanted to try to get some bus shelter upgrades in West Palm Beach, and Gardens was way ahead of, and you guys just kind of took it on yourself and made it an art and
No,
public places.
Yeah,
and-
and now a lot of times the FPL just built their new headquarters and they
Right.
paid for the bus shelters as part of their AIPP fund. So I vice chair that advisory board of the city. So it's a nice way of doing it, so to speak.
Right. So I'm looking forward to seeing those upgrades along the corridor.
No, the enhanced bus shelters are really important along all of our.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Good job.
Sorry, just for clarity, I found it. It's Brian was right. It's the US 1 59th Street to North Lake Boulevard in Riviera and Lake Park. That's the one in fiscal year 25. So that one's going forward, and then right after that is Boca Raton.
Myron?
Thank you. Andy, you've done a really good job of describing the process and the results. As we spoke before the meeting, I'm really interested in how you actually juggle all the balls. That is, you have what the actual planning, how you actually do the planning. There are sources of funds, entities provide you with their priorities. And as we all know, the funds are never sufficient to meet all the priorities. So some decisions have to be made and phases have to be done, and you have to feed back to the entities to try to put all. I wonder if next month when we come to make, have to approve this or recommend it for approval, if you could give us a presentation on how you actually do the work. I mean, how do you take the input and get the tables?
So you want to know how the sausage is made?
How
so
the
to speak?
sausage is made. Absolutely.
I
mean,
can,
that's your job, right? To make that sausage, and there are a lot, there must be a lot of decisions that you have to make. You and the rest of the staff in consultation with the board and all that sort of stuff. And I think it would be helpful for the committee to be exposed to that to the extent to which you can expose it.
sure, I think, we're already gonna be presenting on this, and so I won't rehash the same material as much next meeting. Typically, we don't. And it's a shorter presentation, but I can do a little bit more sausage making presentation.
Now that Myron mentions, like, I actually would be kind of curious how you all determine which ones float up to the top and all
Sure.
sorts.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
curious
We'll
myself.
talk a little bit about that with the list of party products that's coming up in July, but I'll definitely integrate that. That's a good suggestion.
No,
Thank
I
you, Myron.
appreciate that. Myron, thank you. Also, I would just have to pass my compliments on to you all, because the tables are much better this year, especially with the color coding, and the reorganization makes it a whole lot easier. So I just want to tell you all thank you. That's definitely an improvement, and happy to discuss ways to make that even better. But thank you. It's helpful. Any
I
other
second
comments?
that emotion.
Any other comments from the committee? All right. Seeing, are there any public comments, Ruth?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Now I know we had modified the agenda at first, because Wynn would not be able to make it to do her presentation today. So she has arrived. And I do want to make sure that, just want to entertain the committee's thoughts on, do we want to, since we're almost done, we could either, if Wynn feels up to presenting today, or we can kick it to next month. Wynn, do you have a preference?
I'd love to see it today.
I'd love to present if it's available. I apologize for being tardy.
I'm fine with it.
Do I need to go up there or official? Okay.
All right. Appreciate everybody. All right.
I need to verify the whisper sound that's coming. You'll know what I'm talking about. I think somebody's mic or
Is it? Okay, great.
All right, Wynn, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, everybody, for having me today. I apologize for being tardy to our meeting. When the TPA reached out to me, and I thought about what am I going to talk about at 11 o'clock at night, I figured what would be the best way to highlight some of the work that we have here locally and as best practices. And what is this concept we call tactical urbanism? And for those who doesn't work in transportation, and we all are in government, it really is about, there it is. There it is. It really is about how can we dress up our community in a very quick and affordable and cheap way to really improve our streets. And part of it is thinking about, like, why do we do these things, right? When we think about infrastructure, it takes usually 3 to 5 years to plan. We see it in our TIP, we see it in our LRTP. these projects takes a very, very long time to come to fruition. And what are some of the ways that we've done it here as a local initiated project? And what we call this concept is tactical urbanism. And of course, on the screen, you'll see some images of my son when he was I believe he was 5 years old and out there painting the streets with us. And I can go through some of this project and how this really initiated in Palm Beach County. So here's some examples. My personal journey really started in 2015. This was the first project that we did in the city of West Palm Beach. And I can tell you that, the economic development director at the time said, when we want to do something innovative, how about taking away 2 travel lanes on Flagler? He gave me a budget of $500 and he said, do whatever you need to do with it. Great. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't know how it was going to be perceived. Thank God, we have supportive commissioners on here. But what we did is we did a temporary test of an idea, just a pop-up bike lane. And looking at the traffic volume at that time in 2015, and I recently have revisited this project, right? You have less than 10,000 trips on Flagler Drive. And if anybody understands Flagler, it's a very beautiful scenic tour, and it's a scenic road throughout, throughout West Palm, 8.1 miles to be exact. But in downtown, it seems to be very wide. It's not as walkable, even though we have a very beautiful waterfront. It's dividing the waterfront to the rest of downtown. So the test was not so much as triggering an idea of biking infrastructures in the city of West Palm Beach, but really it was testing of the roadway capacity. Was there a significant amount of congestion, so we take away 2 lanes? The short answer is no. I did my first TV interviews at this point. It was very scary. I was told that I was confusing. It was difficult to understand. But what we did is we got a lot of people out there and they were biking, and it was really the initial piece of what we were able to do as the city. Since then, it triggers the city to develop a bicycle master plan that was adopted in 2018. This project, even though it was tabled, it was tested and piloted again. But right now in 2024, there's a project right there called Your Waterfront, Your Way. And it really is bringing back what can we reimagine and re-envision what Flagler is. And what we've heard from people is that we want better public space. We want a wider space for you to walk and bike. We want waterfront activation. And it's a geometry issue. If you can't take away the travel lane, you don't have waterfront activation. So it comes back to what do we do almost 10 years ago, and now it's coming to a project for us. Another project after we've done this, because now we were itching, right? Like the city was like, we're itching to do more. This was what we called an intersection repair, intersection painting. There's a lot of lessons learned from these projects that we've done in 2016 and again 2018. Very, very cost-effective project from a paint and a volunteer perspective. Of course, the consulting fees that goes beyond this is not accounted for. But we did the first project, which is the image on the front, on top of the slides here. The first one was, we did it as a competition for the Dreyfus Schools of the Arts kids. And this is a design competition with the school kids that, they were broken out into team, and they went through a selection committee, just like if we were to do an AI, Art in Public Place, AIPP selection. And one of the things that we asked the kids to troubleshoot is the Tri-Rail station is just due west of your school, but yet you have police presence every morning to walk you across the street. Why? Short answer is people are speeding at Tamarind, it's hard to cross the street. There's not enough time. Okay, so this project, even though it initiated it as a painting project, and of course we did it again and 2 years later, the outcome of it is significant. There's a few things. One thing that as an outcome is we were able to work with Palm Beach County traffic engineer to put in a push button. So redesign of that intersection for another leg of the crosswalk. Two, the city of West Palm has a second project which look at really access management when we think about how to control some of these left turn movements, creating a couple of mid-block crossings throughout the way so kids doesn't have to cross at one location. And then, of course, lastly, we know that this project is going to be revamped with Fern Street and upcoming projects that's coming to this area. So even though it happened 2 years, the program was 2 years, the cost was very minimal because it's all volunteer work. It really triggers these conversations, and I guess the return on investment is significant because you're talking about what are some of the things that happen afterwards. So here's another example in 2018. And again, I just confirmed the cost, and I do apologize. The cost up there is not correct. It is probably 6 times more expensive than it was anticipated. But this was a private-public partnership project between the related companies in downtown West Palm and the CRA and the city. This started as a planning study. What we called is Dancing to the Sunset, is creating a connectivity right on Okeechobee on Rosemary, and it triggers the conversation of dancing into the Sunset Lounge, which is I guess a historic renovation of a very beautiful structure that has recently been completed. The nightclub. Yes, right. As Paula said, it's a nightclub with performers. It's very historic and it's very important to the city. This thing is, even though it's intended for traffic calming, and what it did is it was the initial conversation of us when the city really revamped a lot of the downtown streets to curbless shared streets, making it ambiguous, making it slow, design it for 10 to 15 miles per hour so that people can walk and be comfortable in that space. And what you see today as, if you were to visit Rosemary and this concept, even though it's a road tattoo, that's what the tactical project is called, it can be turned into another version, and a vision has evolved beyond this. So what we think of something as roughly $300,000 to $300,000 worth of investment of an art project turned into a more than $12 million roadway construction projects throughout this area. And then, of course, what other things that locally, what am I working on in this area? So taking some of these concepts, I've been working on different counties, whether it's Martin or Broward, just south of this, is taking that concept and transitioning it into the space that can be repurposed to something else. And even though this was not, it's not something that is built just yet, but it triggers a lot of conversations for the locals, and it brings back the community engagement piece of it, bringing back like the cohesion. And the other thing is testing out that intersection layout before you committing to what the final design would look like. And I think this is what tactical urbanism triggers, and tactical urbanism is very important because it's a low cost-effective way for us to test new ideas. Of course, some of you may know that it's not just a local phenomenon, but it's really an international, movement. Not just West Palm Beach or locally South Florida, but we're talking about internationally, right? All of these examples are from the Bloomberg Philanthropies. They have a guide called Street Art. It's a manual that's out there that you can find the resource, and how each one of us really can take this back to our community to initiate a tactical project. Again, we're not alone. This is we're not on the map, which I'm surprised. But this is just some of the projects that's, have been installed in the United States. And this movement is moving towards a global market. So what are some things that we can do if we were to go back to each one of our community? Really identify where's that crossing that you want, where's that crosswalk, where's that intersection, where are people speeding, where do you feel uncomfortable? That's what you need to start with, and work with your cities, because we all know that insurance and liabilities is very difficult, but really this is a community collaborative type of improvement. You work with your communities and really come up with a plan for implementation. And then lastly, I think what's very important is like before we go into final design, before we go into construction, before we invest that capital dollars, we really need to evaluate if the design works. Is there any tweaks or changes that we need to make? And then before we, go into construction. So I think tactical urbanism is a very cost-effective and very important asset to our community to drive change. So what are some funding opportunities that come up every year? So as you know, that a lot of us have heard SS4A, the Vision Zero dollars that's out there. Part of that unique funding opportunity, and the next cycle, again, it's in August of this year. So for those cities who does not have SS4A dollars already, I encourage that you go out there. Part of this grant is not only for planning, but it's for, for you to do a tactical project, for you to think of a quick build project to do. The other thing is AARP itself. I am a member of the AARP. I love it. It's a great resource. I know Myron's laughing at me, but it's very important from a community planning perspective. If we work in this realm, there's a lot of resources. Yeah, that's exactly it. The community planning resource is incredible. And we don't have, this is not something like that the city government needs to initiate. We can use this resource and initiate and bring together a project, just like a tactical urbanism project. And the AARP Community Challenge is a grant opportunity that we can work towards and get funding into doing projects just like this. And so, of course, there's a lot of benefits. We know what that is. Again, you don't have to do really grand project. It could be as simply as painting a crosswalk. The example on screen right here is in Northwood on 24th and Spruce Avenue, just north of here. And then you can use some of these tactical projects to do some rail safety initiatives in your city as well. So again, quick build, yield high results. And of course, here we are at our next step. If you really want to trigger your child, take him to one of these and make him stand out there for 5 hours, and then he'll give you that look. But this is not, it's a little bit of a abuse for him, but yes. So really call to action. I encourage like each one of us, I'm happy to help with each one of us to determine what's a good location. And I know we hear a lot from TPA staff whenever funding is available. Let's get some of that funding for our community. And so set it as a goal for this upcoming cycle for us to help our constituents in bringing funding and new ideas back to Palm Beach County. So, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ann. Questions from the committee?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you because I participated in some of that. And whether you like it or are afraid of it or not, this is an opportunity to get people to come out and explore their feelings about change. And that's what happens when we try to do these big projects. If we don't get it on the front end, we end up with a big fight, i.e. State Road 7, it just goes on and on and on for years. And so I'm going to be talking to you about our Dixie Highway resurfacing project that's going on with that DOT. And there are some critical crosswalks that I think could benefit from some ideas like yours. So
Yeah, I think I honestly, and we know from our data, especially countywide, and it's very, it's just like our national statistics. Half of our crashes are occurring on state and county roads, right? What's a quick, we call it quick build, we call it tactical urbanism, whatever we call it. Those are really great, like pinpoints, of improvements that we can make. And, you know, before you put in that landscape island, maybe it's painted, maybe it's not as, you know, it's not just asphalt.
I personally think the potential to use these as a precursor or proof of concept for further alterations is actually kind of intriguing. And it brings the question of, are there any grant mechanisms within TPA's purview that could be used for such things like this?
Not, not too many, no. A lot of these as pilots are not items that are eligible for us. So a lot of these smaller grants that Wen's mentioning though, that cities go after tend to have some success. For us, I think Broward has, I think they're using local funds too, but our struggle sometimes too is if it's like pop-up materials, it's not really something that the TPA could hold on to, right? Because we'd have to store it and all that. So if we did explore that, like materials long-term, it would like in collaboration with the jurisdiction. But it's been great for cities to explore for sure.
Oh, completely. Any other comments from the committee?
Yeah, I think where the TPA is most of value for the local is helping us work together with FDOT. And maybe one day Palm Beach County. But I think FDOT is, you know, because they have approved these type of projects elsewhere. Deerfield Beach on US 1, they've done a lane repurposing and it's going through, you know, before they make the final improvement, it is a tactical project just like this. So I think we have those US 1 and those state roads in our community that we can be testing these ideas with.
Any other comments from the committee? Ruth, are there any public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Wynn?
Thank you
very
so much.
Items 4A through 40 are informational only, and there will be no staff presentations unless requested by a committee. Any such requests? Seeing none, are there any public comments on these items?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, our next CAC meeting is scheduled for June 5th, 2024. At this time, our committee meeting is adjourned.